After winning his 4th championship and being one of the best players we have ever seen, the debate between Steph Curry and Magic Johnson for the greatest point guard of all time has officially begun. For those of us that have watched basketball for the past decade, we are all very lucky to have watched the Steph Curry era. He has changed the way basketball is played, and he is single-handedly the reason players take as many three-pointers as they do today. We watched him turn the Warriors into an absolute dynasty, and after 4 championships and finally a Finals MVP under his belt, and truly revolutionizing the game like nobody else has before, I think it's time to ask the question: is Steph Curry the greatest point guard of all time? Most people would agree that he has passed up almost every single other point guard except for one. There's still one player who has remained at the top for almost 30 years, and that player is Earvin Magic Johnson. I've seen a lot of people call this debate stupid because there's just absolutely no way that Curry has passed up Magic already. So today I'm going to give both sides of the argument and then come to a conclusion on who the greatest point guard of all time is. Steph Curry has played for 14 seasons, and so far he's won 4 championships, 2 MVPs, and surprisingly only 1 Finals MVP. A lot of people would consider the fact that he only has 1 Finals MVP as a mark on his career. But in the 2015 Finals, most people would agree that Steph Curry deserved the Finals MVP over Andre Iguodala that year. Although Curry had a rough game 2 in the series and his defense wasn't very good, it was obvious that Curry helped Golden State the most that series, averaging 26 points, shooting 44.3% from the field and 38.5% from 3, as well as 6.3 assists and 5.2 rebounds. Iguodala was given the Finals MVP for his overall defense on LeBron, but I don't believe this should be a slight on Curry's career at all. The next 2 championships that Curry won were led by Kevin Durant, which is another thing about Curry's career that gets held against him. And after Steph had 3 championships and 0 Finals MVPs, people were questioning if he was good enough to be the best player on a championship roster. That's when the 2022 Finals come into play. Steph Curry's 4th championship means a lot to his legacy, and it's a big help to the debate of Curry versus Magic. The Warriors completely fell apart in the 2019 Finals, with 2 of their best players getting injured, and Kevin Durant leaving. And after they went 2 years without making it to another Finals, and at one point being the worst team in the NBA, everybody was sure that the Warriors dynasty was over. Then in the 2022 Finals against the Boston Celtics, Steph Curry reminded everybody who he was. It was the best he's ever looked defensively, adding a lot more muscle than he had before, and he was unstoppable offensively, averaging 31 points a game. After beating the Celtics in 6 games, Curry won his first ever Finals MVP. This past season they would lose in the second round, which brings us to today. Curry definitely has many more seasons left in his career, and the chances of him winning another title and another Finals MVP are not completely out of the picture, which is why some may consider it too early to start comparing these 2 careers. But Curry has only played 14 seasons in the NBA, which is 1 more season than Magic played his entire career, so it seems fair to compare the 2 careers today. When it comes to accolades and achievements, this is where the argument can go in Magic's favor. Magic won 5 championships, 3 Finals MVPs, and 3 MVPs. Winning 5 championships in 13 years is very impressive, especially considering the fact that he won a championship and a Finals MVP in his rookie season starting at center. Magic Johnson, being a 6'9" point guard, was already tall enough to fill the position, and when Kareem got injured in the last game of the series, he started at center and dropped 42 points and grabbed 15 rebounds. The Showtime Lakers went on to win 4 more championships throughout the 80s, and in 1991, it was announced that Magic Johnson had gotten HIV, and he was forced to retire from the NBA. When people make the argument for Magic only playing 13 seasons and accomplishing that much, it can hold some weight for a lot of other all-time players who had much longer careers. But back to my previous point, Curry has only played 1 season longer than Magic so far. And when you compare the accolades of them both, yes, Magic wins in almost every category, but by a very small amount. He only has 1 more championship and 1 more MVP than Curry, which is a difference, but it's not significant enough for accolades alone to decide who is the greater player. When discussing their accolades, context is a big factor. Magic Johnson's competition in the 80s was nowhere close to what Steph Curry has had to go against. And before you bring up how the Golden State Warriors had a super team, yes, the Golden State Warriors were a absolutely stacked team, but the Showtime Lakers also had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, and plenty of other solid players. Magic was great, but the man definitely had some help. And it's the same reason why Magic has 5 championships, but only 3 Finals MVPs. Kareem and James Worthy both won Finals MVPs during Magic's 5 championships. And you could even make the argument that in Magic's rookie season, Kareem deserved the Finals MVP. Kareem was the best player on the Lakers that entire final series, but nobody ever mentions this because of Magic's historic game at center. Steph Curry got robbed in 2015 of a Finals MVP, and he didn't win the Finals MVP in 2017 or 2018 because Kevin Durant was on their team. Say what you want about Kevin Durant, but KD is levels better than James Worthy, and I'm taking a 2017 Kevin Durant over a 1985 Kareem any day. Now, establishing that the accolades of Curry and Magic are not as far apart as people make it out to be, this is when the other factors come into play. Magic's impact on the NBA is unquestionable. When him and Bird came into the NBA, the league was almost bankrupt. Ratings were at an all-time low, but Magic Johnson brought eyes back to the game and possibly saved the game we all know and love today. He was also the first of his kind. Being a 6'9" point guard was unheard of in the 1980s, and after this moment, it opened up opportunities for taller players to play at the point guard position, and eventually lead to today, the era of positionless basketball. Now, saying all of this, when it comes to impacting the game, not many people can say they truly changed the game the way that Steph Curry did. Before Curry was drafted, point guards were not supposed to dribble around and shoot a bunch of threes all game. Players weren't supposed to shoot that many three-pointers in general. It was a very different time. And Steph Curry truly changed the way that teams play with his three-point shooting ability. Even being a team full of shooters, this style of play had never been successful before Golden State. Now teams are shooting more three-pointers than ever, and a three-point shot is a requirement through every single position. The reason for this? Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the all-time leader in three-pointers made, and he holds records nobody may ever reach again. Comparing the impact of Magic Johnson and Steph Curry, the edge has got to go to Curry because of how much he changed the way that people play basketball. So far, we've covered the accolades, the achievements, the statistics, and the impact of the two. But when you compare the two as basketball players, talent-wise, I'd have to say again, the edge goes to Steph Curry. They're both extremely talented offensively, but for different reasons. Magic was known for his passing IQ, his leadership, as well as his scoring ability from the low post, and he remains as one of the best passers we have ever seen. I'll try my best to not compare the three-point shooting abilities of the two because it's not very fair to Magic. The three-point line was introduced the year he was drafted, and nobody could have expected it to turn into what it became. But from a scoring aspect, it's very obvious Curry was the better scorer on almost every level except from inside the paint. Steph is amazing at working off the ball and getting opportunities for him and his teammates consistently. While Magic is the better passer, you can make the argument that Curry is better offensively as well. Defensively, the two have not been great their entire careers, but for different reasons. Magic was the league leader in steals for a few years, but never made an all-defensive team. In Steph's case, he is a 6'3" point guard who most of the time isn't able to defend as well simply because of his height and his frame. But Magic Johnson was 6'9", and he had little to no excuses to be as bad defensively as he was. He was extremely slow, and throughout his entire career he was a pretty bad defender. Curry has been a bad defender as well, but over the past few years, he has gained a lot more muscle and honestly became a pretty good defender. We saw this a lot in the 2022 finals, where the Celtics weren't able to abuse him as a matchup defensively like other teams have before. Which means Steph Curry has surpassed Magic Johnson in almost every single aspect except for accolades. And again, comparing their accolades, Magic has played against much weaker competition and is still barely over Curry in every accolade. Not only has Curry already shown his career to be better than Magic's, Curry still has at least 5 or 6 more seasons left. And if Steph Curry hasn't convinced you already that he is the greatest point guard of all time, I am very confident that by the end of his career, it will be a no-brainer. Even with Steph Curry still playing, most people have already accepted that he is better than Magic. Recently, I asked you guys who you thought the GOAT point guard was, and although it was close, Curry won. Has Steph Curry really passed up Magic Johnson, or does Magic Johnson still sit at the top? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out my last video where I discussed the Karl Malone situation and how he ruined his entire NBA legacy. But with that being said, I'm out of here, and I'll see you on the next one.
I can't stay.